And we're back. Alright, let's go.
君が錯乱した親友の手で井戸に落とされたと主張する。
Yeah.
すると、警察はあと2つばかり真実の候補を用意するだろう。君が狂言自殺で親友を陥れようとしているとか。
That's true.
あるいはもっとシンプルに、事故で井戸に落ちた君が錯乱して親友を疑ってるとか。
Does that mean I can kill someone just for no reason, and if they don't understand why, I can get away with it? Damn it, now I have incriminating evidence now. Oh, never mind. I'm not gonna do that. Can't. I have it recorded. Damn it. Shouldn't have said that.
この3案のどれかが捜査っていうレースで勝ちを競うわけだ。勝ち馬は誰にもわからない。こんな博打に君は寝台潰すまでかける気かい
Koji has no response. Can he really explain with cold, clear logic what drove Fuminori to do what he did? How can he convince anyone else when he doesn't even understand it himself?
そして一番の問題は
Ryoko says calmly, cutting into Koji's thoughts.
君がそういうランチキ騒ぎに手こずっている隙に先坂文則を追い詰めるチャンスを逃すことだよ。身辺で火の手が上がれば彼は手遅れになる前にさっさと姿をくらますだろう。そうやってまた万事が振り出しに戻る。
She pauses to take a bite of her sandwich before finishing.
私が鴎外を取り逃がしたようにね。
Heavy silence falls upon them, with only the soft rustle of pages turning in Ryoko's hands to mark the passage of time.
教えてくださいよ、先生。
Koji says, his hushed voice breaking in through the quiet.
あなたが警察を差し置いてまで処刑しようなんて思うほど、そこまで許しがたいことって何なんです？鴎外って人は、あの地下室で何をやってたんですか？
Once again, Ryoko ignores Koji's question. This time, however, Koji doesn't back down. His silent glare demands her attention as she pours through the documents before her. I want to know too! After some time, Ryoko rearranges the papers in her hands and sets them aside, as though having come to some conclusion. She then turns her chair to face Koji for the first time since he awoke.
なあ、殿君。
Her hard stare bellies the calmness of her voice.
君はここいら辺で降りた方がいい。ナスカ日光の温泉でゆっくり羽を伸ばして、何もかも忘れる気になってから東京に戻ってきなさい。
忘れろと。
Koji feels anger rise within him.
近江は俺の恋人でした。文則は俺の親友でした。それを忘れろと。
Understandable.
そうだ、忘れろ。これは提案じゃない。警告だ。
Ryoko replies, coolly rebuffing Koji's anger.
今まではどうであれ。これからの君の人生に、その二人は一切関わりを持たないだろう。断言してもいい。
じゃあ、つくばは
Koji shouts, unable to control
彼
himself.
女はどうなる？あの子は電話口で俺に助けを求めてた。どこかでひどい目に遭わされてたんだ。
Yeah.
そりゃ何十時間前の話かね。私が君を助けてから何時間経ったと思う？そうでなければ、井戸の中の君があと何時間持ったと思う？
She shakes her head. Ooh.
彼女はとっくに死んでるだろう。誰もが君ほど幸運だなんて思わない方がいい。
She shakes her head and declares coldly.
あんたは
Koji growls, unable to suppress his
あ
anger.
の井戸で俺の死体を見つけても、あんた
Nah, she seems pretty done with all this bullshit.
そりゃ覚悟してたからね。まさか生きてるとは思わなかったよ。
Ryoko says with a shrug, unfazed by Koji's ire. It is futile to argue with this woman. Koji realizes her values are fundamentally different from his own. Nothing he can ever say will ever move her. Koji gets out of bed and stands on his shaky legs.
どのくらい俺は寝てたんです？
ざっと半日ばかり。消耗した後速やかに休息が取れるってのは羨ましいね。若いうちだけだよ、そういう無茶が効くのは。
Koji looks at his watch and sees that it's 4 in the morning, which means that it was already early evening when Ryoko rescued him. He can't believe that he survived in that well for almost 2 days. Now that the gaps in his memory have been filled with his sense of time has returned, he realizes that it's already Sunday morning. Ryoko's right, a lot of time has passed since he spoke to Yo on the phone. Koji grabs a sports drink and 2 jelly packs from the bag of food that Ryoko brought. Then heads for the door. His legs are still a little unsteady, but he can compensate for that with sheer willpower.
念のため聞かせてもらうが、どこに行くつもりだい？
東京へ。
Koji replies brusquely, his tone as hard as hers.
つくばようはまだ間に合うかもしれない。
And he dead now. Not as dead flag. Bye bye.
人の話を聞かないやつだね、君は。
聞く耳持たないのはお互い様でしょう。
Yeah? Koji's expecting Ryoko to watch him go with that cold, mocking smile of hers. Instead, however, she sighs heavily and rests her jaw on her hands.
もう少し待つ気はないか。こいつのどこかに。
She thrusts her chin at the mountain of papers in front of her.
オーガイがサヤと名付けたものが何だったのか、答えが隠されてるはずだ。そいつを突き止めて、ちゃんと対策を講じてから動くべきだと私は思う。
つくばが死んでると決めてかかってるあんたなら、当然そう思うでしょうね。
Yeah? In truth, Koji is extremely uneasy about going it alone. At the same time, however, he knows that he mustn't depend on Ryoko. She's made it clear that she doesn't care about saving lives. Teaming up with her will only make it more difficult to salvage anything, out of this nightmare.
殿君、
Ryoko calls just before Koji steps out the door.
仮にも一度は殺されかかってるんだ。もう二度と殺されるな。
I have a bad feeling about that. She picks something up from the table and tosses it to Koji. And she's gone! When Koji catches it, he feels its solid weight fill his hand. Oh, yeah. Koji stares at the menacing shape of cold metal. It's a revolver, the same one that was clenched in Ogai's skeletal fist.
あと4発入ってる。安全装置はない。
Wait,
引き金を引くだけで弾が出る。
wait, hold on. Is this some sort of deep meaning to it? Why is there 4 shots and a revolver left if he used 1 to kill himself? There's supposed to be 6. Why is there 1 missing? Did he only load 5 bullets in it before? I'm confused. I don't think they make 5-shot revolvers, do they? I think they're always 6, right? There's no safety, bruh.
どこでどう使うかは君の判断に任せるよ。
Yep. Koji were his usual cautious self, he would not hesitate to reject the dangerous offering. The only time you truly need a gun is when all hope is lost. He'd prefer not to fight a losing war. And yet, without even knowing it, Koji has already set foot into Ryoko's world, choosing instinct over reason. He accepts the small but deadly weapon and stuffs it into his pocket. There's no I hate that that actually irritates me that there's no safety on the gun. There's no question that Koji intends to save Yo and bring Fuminori to answer for his crimes. In the back of his mind, however, he can hear the footsteps of Ruin approaching. Yeah, maybe like that. When he steps out of the cabin's front door, Koji shivers as the wind tears into his skin. To his surprise, the outside air is even colder than the mud at the bottom of the well. Perhaps the cramped space mitigated this cold somewhat. If he had been exposed to this chill all night long, he would have surely frozen to death. Koji finds 2 cars parked in the yard. The smaller car next to his must be Ryoko's. When he sits behind the wheel of his car, he gets some relief from the feeling that he has taken the first step, however small, back into his world. He sips a sports drink, wetting his parched throat. then washes down some jelly. His stomach rebels at the sudden influx of food after 36 hours on empty, but he manages to force down the urge to vomit. Koji needs energy. No matter how hard it is, he must regain enough stamina to overcome the challenges ahead. After forcing down as much food as he can handle, Koji leans back in his seat and takes a short break. When he begins to feel like himself again, he reaches into the back seat and pulls his spare cell phone out of his bag. He has a spare cell phone? He never expected that carrying two phones would be in such a stroke of luck. Honestly, that is pretty funny. As he calls up Fuminori's number and prepares to hit send, Koji is overcome by a flood of emotion. Rage, despair, sorrow, pity. He is unable to decide what to feel toward his friend. However, there's no time to dwell on the past. That's a translation error! There's no time to dwell on the past. Every second lost diminishes the chance of saving Omi and Yo. Koji refuses to consider that it may already be too late. He steels himself and presses the button, and holds down the phone to his ear as it rings. The shrill sounds seem to go on for longer than it ever has in his life. Right now, Fuminori's phone must be displaying the name of the caller. Koji wonders what his reaction will be when he sees it. Yeah, no, that sounds about right. The call goes through. In the silence on the other end of the phone, Koji senses surprise, apprehension, and dark fury. Feeling slightly gratified, Koji delivers the first jab.
Yo, そんなに意外か、死人からの電話は。
Based. As Koji's about to answer, an idea suddenly comes to him.
井戸の底に仕掛けがあったのさ。
Oh, that's actually smart.
岸辺屋に行くためのな。
Koji says, a plan forming rapidly in his mind. He pauses to let that sink in, then, with satisfaction filling his voice, he says,
大貝正彦と。
Fuminori's gasp tells Koji that the advantage is his. Keeping his voice bold, he decides to further exaggerate the truth.
何もかも分かった。さやってやつのことも全部。お前たちは終わりだよ、文則。
Oh, jeez.
何もかもばらしてやる。ところ構わずにぶちまけてやる。証拠はちゃんと揃ってるからな。
It's obvious from Fuminori's tone that rage has overwhelmed his reason. Koji's bluff is working perfectly. His victory is tainted, however, as Fuminori's response to the name Saya brings a cry of anguish from the corner of his heart that he still wants to believe his friend can be saved.
咲坂君がこのサヤと呼ばれるものとすでに深く関わっているのなら
Ryoko's words play back in his head, sounding even colder than before.
彼はもう引き返せないところまで踏み込んでいる
You mustn't allow emotion to sway him.
海のり、近江と筑波はどこだ？
Koji suddenly switches topics, trying to keep Fuminori off balance. It all comes down to this.
俺にだって情けはある。お前の出方次第では考えんでもない。
Well, about that. One's dead. The other's my pet.
お前がこれ以上誰も傷つけないとい
Any
うのは
more?
俺にしたことは忘れてやる。この別荘で見つけたことも。俺だってこれ以上お前とさやに関わり合いを持つのは願い下げなんだ。近江たちさえ無事に戻ればいい。
Well. Fuminori's voice trails off. He's obviously trying to decide how far Koji could be trusted, and whether there's room for negotiation. Fuminori has been called out, and now it's time for him to show his hand. Fuminori pauses, then gives a knowing chuckle that sends chills up Koji's spine. I don't think she knows what want is.
お前のところにいるんだな。
Koji is relieved to learn Yo's location and that she is, at least, still alive. At the same time, however, he remembers that horrifying phone call and is It is clear now that Fuminori played some part in Yo's suffering. Has she already fallen into his trap back then? What was happening to what has happened to her? How is she being treated? Well. You're kinda right, but not in the way that's good. Fuminori says with venomous sarcasm. Koji feels despair settle over his soul. How much lower will this man go? Must Fuminori seek out and destroy every memory of the friendship they once shared?
つくばを解放しろ。
Well,
その安全を確認したら、お前らについての証拠を破棄してやる。
okay.
信用できるか。そっちが先。お前に選択の余地を与えるつもりはない。
Yeah. Koji instinctively realizes that it's dangerous to push his bluff any further.
後でまた連絡する。それまでによく考えておけ。
Huh. He hangs up without waiting for a response. Fuminori doesn't know that Koji is still at the cabin in Tochigi. Right now, he's probably worrying about whether Koji will show up in 1 hour or 1 minute. Koji hopes that he'll be able to take advantage of Fuminori's confusion. 3 hours, that's how long it will take to race all the way back to Tokyo. Koji is afraid that his body won't carry him through such a long drive. 3 hours is not a long drive. I mean, it's not that long. I mean, anyway, his mind is clear, but his limbs still feel half asleep. I guess he's been up for quite a bit. He's been through it. So yeah, 3 hours would probably suck. But his limbs still feel half asleep, like they're weighted down with lead. Although he knows that he has to stay resolute, Koji still longs for the peace he had just a few days ago, when life or death struggles were the furthest thing from his mind. Back then, he could never have imagined himself fighting to rescue a friend from the clutches of a madman. With each passing moment, he feels himself becoming less like the person he was. When all of this is over, will he be able to return to his old life? Or will this change continue until it has consumed him utterly? Time is against him. Every second that passes is wasted. Even so, he decides to allow himself just 5 minutes of weakness. For exactly 5 minutes, he leans against the steering wheel and cries. And when his tears have run dry and his heart is calm, Koji starts up his car and drives away. Oh boy. I stare at the silent phone in my hand. There is anger, of course, but something cold and heavy holds my emotions in check. A sense of danger. To be honest, I'm surprised at how calm I am. Oh! Hyo looks up at me apprehensively, her head between my thighs as she was attending to me throughout the call. Oh no, that's why he was smug about it. Whew. The remaining fragments of her memory seem to have joined together, as she has regained some degree of speech. Upon realizing this last night, Saya began to teach her language once more. I assume she finds our pet's efforts amusing. The pleasure from her ministrations threatens to impede my thoughts, and besides, my arousal has already vanished. First, I consider making her stop. When I gazed into her puppy dog eyes, however, I began to think differently. Thanks to Saya, I have a family once again. For the first oh yeah, I forgot how this all started. For the first time, I am becoming aware of the responsibility that places on me. I am now the head of a new Sakisaka household, as well as its only male member. It is my duty to protect, comfort, and ensure the happiness of the women living under my roof. With that in mind, I know that I mustn't show fear or confusion. That would only cause them distress. Okay. I entrust myself to Yo's eager touch, basking in the pleasure with one part of my mind while contemplating our current predicament with the other. It's clear that I made a grave error when I failed to finish Koji off 2 days ago. Right now, I need to set my frustration and anger aside and deal with this problem logically. It's time to leave. I have no way of knowing when Koji escaped from the well, or how much he has learned, or how many people he has had contact with since then. Now that it's impossible to know how far the problem has spread, merely disposing of Koji won't guarantee our safety. When the enemy has poisoned your water supply, you can't stop the risk that even one drop might remain. Your only choice is to stop drinking the water.
ねえ、文則、誰と話してたの？
Aww. Saya returns from the kitchen, where she'd gone in search of a midnight snack. She's munching on her favorite spare ribs! Purging myself of unease and impatience, I respond with a casual
ちょ
shrug.
っと厄介なことになりそうだ。工事のやつが生きててさ。
あらま。
Aramo. By breaking the news suddenly and without any trace of anxiety, I am able to avoid frightening Saya. Instead, she is merely surprised. I knew that remaining calm would work. Moreover, I'm currently being pleasured by Yo. It would be hard for anyone to get too serious under these circumstances. That is true. That is...
ださや。僕たち、この家を引き払った方がいいかもな。
そうか。
Yeah. Saya lowers her eyes and strokes her chin thoughtfully.
まあ、どっちみち鈴見さんの一家が消えたのがバレれば、この近辺も騒がしくなってただろうし、遅かれ早かれ、こういう日は来てたと思うよ。
Saya nods. I can tell that she's reluctant to leave, but at least there's no sadness in her expression. Everything will be fine. I will protect my life with Saya just as I have up until now. I have that power. Knowing that we've overcome one problem fills me with new confidence.
大丈夫。安心していいよ。
We can travel light and take the Suzumi family car. Oh, that's true, they can! I'd better withdraw everything that's left in my bank account and carry it as cash. I'll also need a weapon, something more reliable than a butcher's knife. Kochi will most likely follow. He thinks that Yo can still be saved. However, I'm not abandoning his house just to run away. As long as Koji knows our location, we're stuck on the defensive. Leaving gives me the chance to regain the initiative and deal with him at a place of my choosing. Next time we meet, I'll kill him with my own 2 hands. I'll make sure to wring every last drop of life out of his body. A shiver runs through me as I anticipate the battle ahead, and my bloodlust burns like orgasmic fire. When Ryoko looks up, the morning sun is already streaming in through the window. Tired from hours of poring over files, she removes her glasses and massages her aching eyes. Her dreams are always filled with horror, yet the night she just spent was more nightmarish than them all. And it's not over yet, she has only just set foot on the threshold. As expected, the files left by Ogai Masahiko were not the sort that Ryoko could simply pick up and read. Fortunately, Ogai had been too old-fashioned to put his trust in electronic media. If he'd encrypted his files on a computer, she'd have had to find a hacker to decipher them. In fact, he had not employed any kind of code in his writing. That would have been too time-consuming by hand. The method of obfuscation he did was quite simple. Of the files Ryoko pulled from his underground lab, the majority turned out to be notes of theses from Ogai's days as a student. The important papers were the diaries and research notes that had been scattered throughout the piles of worthless scrap. At first, she was unable to understand the documents she had found. Each sheet was covered with text on one side and blank on the other. Each line was completely unrelated to the next, making it impossible to glean any meaning from this whole. The trick revealed itself, however. While she was sorting the pages that made no sense, she found that each line continued on the same line of a different page. Yeah, that's what I was thinking when it was lined up like that. In Ogai's diary, for example, The first day began on the first line, and then continued not with the next line, but with the first line on the next page. Similarly, the second day was the second line. The third day was the third line, and so on and so forth. After filling all the lines on one set of pages, Ogai had torn them out and scattered them among his other files. There was no regularity to how the pages were numbered, of course. Unable to locate any sort of key or legend, Ryoko had no choice but to figure out the page order manually. Despite knowing that the task would be exhausting, Ryoko set to it valiantly. After separating all of the loose leaf sheets from the jumbled files, she began the painstaking process of linking pages together according to the contents of their first line. She found that Ogai had dismantled and scattered his diary each time he completed a number of days equal to the lines of one page, and had done the same with his research notes every 30 pages or so. Diary was much easier to restore because the entries varied in length. Later pages had a large number of blank lines. The page with only one line, therefore, was the last page of the diary, and those with the most blank spaces could be considered closer to the end. Yeah, it's true. Ryoko's perseverance has paid off, for she has already succeeded in restoring several volumes of Ogai's diary. As she reads them, she feels despair draining her spirit, as it has so many times before. This cursed feeling of powerlessness that comes with knowing hidden truths. Those who have tasted it once shall be beaten down by it again and again until the day they die. All secrets are connected, after all. Once you have a glimpse, even the tiniest fractions of the world's truth's face, you have no choice but to watch in horror as the veils roll itself back inch by inch. All that remains is to wait for the day when insanity will crush your reason under its ever-mounting weight. I have succeeded in communicating with the organism. It shows enormous curiosity, and its intelligence is beyond doubt. See research notes for confirmed vocal patterns and body language. Its appetite for knowledge is insatiable, and its learning speed is off the charts. However, it exhibits absolutely no desire to be recognized as an individual. Its ego appears to be quite weak, suggesting a psyche wholly unlike that of a human. The speed of the organism's linguistic development is astounding. When I laughed at its mispronunciations, it immediately picked up the concept of puns. Oh, damn. Ever since, it has been employed its entire vocabulary in an attempt to find puns that will make me laugh. Perhaps in a few days' time, it will have learned enough language for us to communicate freely. The organism's command of spoken language is now sufficient to facilitate higher-level discourse. But although it has regaled me with questions all day, it remains unable to answer any of mine. The reply suggests that it gained awareness only after materializing in this universe. It has no knowledge of where it came from. While I am disappointed, the fact that it has reached this level of intelligence only 1 week after starting to think tells me that there is no end to what I can learn from it. Hypothesis: it is not a naturally occurring organism, but was created by an even more sophisticated sentient life form. This would explain why it has no ego yet possesses such a hunger for knowledge. It might be some sort of reconnaissance drone that was sent here from another world. Huh? Ryoko smiles humorously for the umpteenth time since she started reading. How wonderful it would be if she could laugh the diary off as the delusions of a madman or the work of a science fiction author. Alas, she knows far too much. When she thinks back to the many horrors that Ogai brought into her life, the words before her take on chilling credibility. I have confirmed that the organism's brain power far surpasses any human's. This morning, I taught it about prime numbers. After I explained the Lucas-Lamer test for Mersenne primes, it immediately began to list examples that it had calculated in its head. I was only able to confirm by memory up to the number 10M89. Oh, 10,000,089? Something, I don't know. But it continued to list further examples without any trouble. I left it to do its calculations. and when I returned a few hours later, I discovered that I'd written down more than 70 of them. Wait. Computers all over the world were currently working to calculate Mersenne primes. Oh, number 10. Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. Okay, I remember these. I forgot. Wait, I watched the Veritasium video, or was it a Vsauce video? One of those about this. But the last one I remembered being found was the 39th back in 2001. When I entered several of the results into my laptop and ran the Lucas-Lambert test on them, I found that everyone was correct. The same is no doubt to be the true of the rest. After all, the organism has never shown the pathological need for respect that would lead it to lie about its accomplishments. I see no reason to doubt its veracity. If I could reveal the world an expedient method for discovering Mersenne primes, the prize money would make me a billionaire. Actually, yeah. Of course, my current research is worth far more than any sum of money. I must keep it a secret. The organism's computational speed exceeds that of even the most powerful supercomputers. I can only conclude that its cognitive faculties are beyond anything humanity can imagine. At the organism's request, we have begun a new field of study. Despite its immeasurable aptitude for mathematics, it now desires to concentrate on sociology and natural sciences. Perhaps our math problems are simply too elementary for it. It has shown especially keen interest in the means by which organisms reproduce and multiply. As it possesses nothing that could be called emotion, I hesitate to use this description, but when it learned about DNA, it seemed somehow excited. In fact, the organism itself seemed surprised by its reaction. When asked about the nature of the impulse, the organism decided to label it instinct. If this description is indeed accurate, then this is an extremely significant development. It would mean that there is a deeper level to its psyche than just the knowledge it has acquired since coming into this world. If I can use this discovery to trace its roots, I might be able to learn what it truly is. Note: candidates for the plane and world of the organism's origin are discussed in my writings on the Silver Keys, filed separately. I spent the whole day carrying books into its room. Apparently the organism is no longer satisfied by the knowledge I am able to impart. It should come as no surprise considering its linguistic prowess, but the speed at which it consumes text is astounding. The diary continues for some time, chronicling the intimate relationship between Ogai and the organism. In the back of her mind, Ryoko imagines the old doctor climbing down the well in the middle of the night to hold congress with some inhuman creature in that bizarre laboratory. The image is disturbingly similar to the nightmares that have shattered the silence of many nights with her screams. What follows, however, makes even her worst nightmare pale in comparison. You know what? This is getting a little longer than normal, so it's perfect time to stop because it's a cliffhanger. Ha ha ha, get fucked.